Hi guys, welcome to the video. I have no script for this one, so I'm starting it off strong. There's going to be sections where the voiceover is bad because I'm literally doing it in the moment. Okay, this drawing project made me irate. I've had crafts where I got irate before. This one just felt impossible, and I have 7 years of experience under my belt, a lot of which I did traditional, so I know how to handle most paints, markers, blah blah blah. And I was having such a hard time trying to figure this out. And I saw a lot of professionals not be able to get the line quality that I personally strive for, or is necessarily considered good in the art community. And as you'll see throughout this video, it's not their fault. It is an extremely hard thing to do. And then you look into the profiles, and with any other pen, they can do a okay job. So the question is, what is causing that? So, speed paint wise, I sort of traced here. Especially baby artists, listen to me. This is the level of tracing I think most artists would completely agree with, because it is 1, a photo of a real person, 2, by the end I don't think a single line was exact, and 3, I mainly just used the picture as like an anatomy guide, and then you even see me broaden the shoulders because here I was going for a Bishonen style instead of my regular style, because Hannibal is very Japanese coded. As I'll go into my actual Hannibal dedicated video I'm working on currently, and my cases of cherry blossoms, so I really just wanted to make him look more anime than my normal style. I don't even think anyone would morally call this tracing, or bad in any way, shape, or form. I, of course, thought this was going to be a 3-hour process in total. I wanted to get this done by the end of the night because I just bought my case, so I wanted to get this done as fast as possible. And I did not have my Apple Pen at that point, so of course it was a hard time. The final drawing came out horrible, but I actually liked the way that the final drawing came out, so... Okay, so here is the countless tips I learned from doing this stupid project. First of all, you want to go in a circular motion whenever you are using the toothpick. For some reason, back and forth does not work as well. Whenever you have a very long strip, you might be forced to use it, I guess, but for the most part, it will not peel up the paint as well. Secondary, you want to completely saturate the line you are trying to scrape from, because if it is dry in any way, shape, or form, I'm talking like you just covered in paint and didn't wait the 3 seconds for it to saturate the line and remove the paint, then the paint will not scrape off very beautifully. It will chip, and it will cause you many problems, because for the most part, that just immediately takes up your whole line, and you have to redo that section. I've had to redo at least every line in this entire drawing a good 4 times. Lines like his shoulder, which are very long, I've had to do in sections, and this paint takes so long to dry. So please, just completely saturate your line. Now you have to use a paper towel to soak up the extra ink. That is just a fact of life, unless you want to spend $100 in toothpicks, because the toothpicks eat literally no paint, like absolutely none for some reason. So what you want to do is you want to go in with the toothpick on your initial run through when you're just carving out the line, is you want to get that paint away from the line also. So you want to get it a good, I'd even do like a millimeter away from the line, just enough where you can mess with it with the toothpick without, of course, interacting with the line. Then you want to fully wait for the line to dry. Now this is very important. Now, if you use a paper towel on a line that does not look matte at all, this includes if you freshly used ink, then it will completely ruin the line. If you added acetone to it to saturate it, then it will completely take up that line. And if you use the pen, it will just completely smear it everywhere. But you physically have to use the paper towel. So what I do is I go in with that initial line, I try to get the ink as far away from the line as I possibly can, and then I go in with a secondary run of the isopropyl, and then I will go in with a paper towel and very carefully try to rub against the line, not on the line, as much as you can avoid. Please try on the second run to keep the isopropyl away from your physical line. It is impossible, I know, and you're going to have to go over every single line 5 times until it gets perfect. And not only that, I completely forgot that isopropyl basically eats through anything. It is the plastic equivalent of electronics to salt water, and I bought a plastic case without even thinking of it. So now anywhere I just pull the isopropyl like you're supposed to, there is a film. Now I cannot tell if this is the plastic physically degrading itself or the film that was on the plastic, because it did have a plastic cover on top of it that I peeled off. So it could very well be remnants of the glue that was used on the plastic, or it could be the oil and the, of course, oil paint I've been using. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Whatever it is, it's not actually causing permanent damage to the plastic to my knowledge. So the only thing left is to deal with the milky finish that it leaves. Now, the way to do this is to buff it out with the paper towel, and like I said, everything on your canvas needs to be dry. I often do this on the clearing out ink stage. Whenever I go in with the paper towel, I just buff a little bit harder. Another tip that you please have to listen to me for, this permanent marker will stay on your hands and leave an oil, or if you touch the dry permanent marker, it will still leave an oil on your hands. Now, I don't necessarily know if it is toxic, but I have wiped my mouth with my hand that had like a couple dry pieces of the paint on it, and my whole mouth tasted like poison, and I tried to rinse it out and it would not come out until I put a flavor on top of it, and I did that like a good 3 times because, of course, while you're drawing, you touch your face, and most of the products I've used will not even hurt you to this extent. I've never had a product that puts enough residue on it to where it will literally get in your mouth. So yeah, I wouldn't be touching my eyes, and avoid your mouth at all costs. Wash your hands a good 2 to 3 times after you finish one of your drawing sessions. I've never used oil markers before, so I just did not know this was a thing. But I don't trust it as much as acrylic, and I wouldn't go licking it, so just, The very beginning stage of whenever you're literally just copying the drawing on the paper, put down as much marker ink as you physically can. If there is any section that looks even a little bit sheer, cover it, because you will notice that in the final drawing. And this includes whenever you are basically re-wetting it with your isopropyl. You need to flip it over a couple times, especially whenever I finish a section. I look through every single line and make sure that it's completely opaque. This is going to be a constant back and forth battle, no matter what you do. I have tried putting the ink on the toothpick so that I can just do tiny touch-ups. That does not work for me for some reason. So you are going to be constantly trying to dissolve the ink, and then picking the ink up with your paper towel, and then you're going to be switching out toothpicks left to right, center. This is completely stupid. I have no idea why they marketed this for beginner artists. I have been fighting this thing for hours. Also, I don't know if I'm going to literally show it, but as you've probably seen in previous things, with this chain necklace, I basically blacked out and traced the chains because my marker was too thick, and I completely assumed before, of course, drawing, that you can easily just smoothly get the inner line, no issues whatsoever. Yeah, that's practically impossible. And then I went in again, trying to actually draw the outer line and not just carve it out the middle, and that went wrong too. So I'm going in for my 3rd time, and I'm just going to make the chain black. Like, it's just going to be a couple lines. What I like most about art, and especially crafts, is that everything you do is problem solving. No matter how many videos you watch, if you want to be creative with it at all, then you are going to have issues that arise. In order for that not to happen, you would have to use the exact same products down to the letter of the person you're watching the video. You'd have to have the exact same conditions. It's just impossible to not arrive at some problems that you have to problem solve. Like, you guys might have some problems that I haven't brought up yet, and you of course can comment on this video and I can try to help you. But TikTok in the 2020s made this out like it was going to be a 3-hour craft almost anyone can do. Like whenever people were painting lines on their mirrors or little clouds that basically any adult can figure out. The anime community was marketing this as such because you can trace a screen cap that you do not draw very easily. And of course, most people can figure out cell shading if they have an exact map to trace with the screenshot. But this, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure that actual professionals have like better pens and stuff and get the lines right on the first try, but this has been a technique used by professional animators for hundreds of years. This is a professional drawing style. I don't know how they are talking about it on TikTok like it was a thing to do when you were bored. And I saw this as an easy craft as they marketed as such because you're tracing, quote unquote. Then I would have been so utterly distraught. I would have been so sad with the final product because of how bad the lines are, unless you fight it for 20 hours like I just showed you and used literally all of my tips. Like, if I had that spark in me of wanting to draw and finding this as an easy start to get into it, that would have taken me fully out of the joy of drawing. That would have deterred me. I wonder how many people in 2020 got into the anime art style, because anime really did have a resurgence on TikTok in 2020. I wonder how many people wanted to start drawing, maybe start their drawing career, and just completely got deterred because of this one trend. The paint portion I have barely any tips on. It is very common sense. I don't know why that is the only thing that the people doing the tutorials focused on. It is exactly how you imagine it. You go opposite to how you would build up your colors. You make it thick, and you, first and foremost, use the cheapest paint you can possibly find. Do not use dollar store brand or kids paint. For some reason, that always has a weird texture and is never opaque. I really mean the 50-cent apple barrel bottles that you can get from Walmart. In every other video you've probably watched of glass painting, they use very thick paint. Now, what is the reasoning for that? They use it so that they can get a very thick and opaque coat in one go, which is what you have to do. And a lot of beginner artists might not be able to do that, so I can see why they want you to buy the more expensive paints for glass painting. We are doing a clear phone case, and here's the deal with phone cases. Your phone has to fit in it. If you get it too tight in there, I imagine it'll pop out, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be tons of problems if you use the very thick paint and then layer on top of layer. And if you see the way that they do it in the videos, they have maybe 3 colors on the back, meaning that the last layer they just shoved on top of the entire painting. You want to stay as close to the other lines as you possibly can. Like if you did the darker shadows and then you go on to the normal shadows, you can overlayer it a tiny bit, but don't go over the whole thing all willy-nilly like they did. I also got toothpick happy. As you'll see in the final drawing, I had to do a lot of detail work where brushes would be hard to use. Also, bulking up the paint with a brush just felt weird for some reason, so in that sense, toothpicks were much better. However, this oil pen, inexplicably, was apparently not an oil pen. The acrylic, mixed with, I guess, the toothpick scrubbing, actually brought up some of the lines in the final drawing. In a way, I, of course, could not fix, which is maddening. I had the lines perfect, almost better than I could do on my tablet. And in the end, as you can see, a lot of the lines look like ink bleeding on an unfit paper. I then tried to clean up my paint layers with a dry toothpick, just scraping away the paint I didn't want, but all that did was make a pocket of air bubbles under some of the layers, almost like water droplets. But I mean, it was so humid it was 2% off raining in my house. So I don't even know what opinion to give on toothpicks. During the paint stage, I think I'd just recommend 1. Do not pick a detailed picture. 1 shadow, 1 highlight. Think Hunter x Hunter or Haikyuu screenshots. That's why they were so popular on TikTok, I think, because the art style is just very simple. And buy yourself a detailed paintbrush, try to get the shadows, etc. right on the first try. I wouldn't even try to fix very small mistakes. Also, on the same editor's note, after tons of digging, I did find a YouTuber able to get good lines. They did not post a tutorial about it, but from what I gathered, they are just really skilled at line art and use this pen, which from the looks of it is very opaque, 2 layers max, and very thin. The issue that made my original line art so horrible enough that I had to do this was because my pen was very thick and I had to go over it 6 times just to get it opaque. So fixing that issue would probably save you a lot of time. Just don't use the pen I bought. In fact, I refuse to link my pen. I'll link theirs. If you have a steady hand like they do, you may only need to do some touch-ups, not weeks of touch-up. But from the looks of it, I'm not saying this video is useless, You're gonna need a lot of skill to get to that point, and I saw that they just did not want to use that much line weight, which of course is very valid. For the baby artists who clicked on this video, line weight is where, the longer the line, like biceps or shoulders, the line art goes thin to, in some styles, not even there, versus where lines connect, you thicken it. And you'd very much still need my technique to thin it out. And that is finally the end of it, guys. I hope you all liked the finished painting and found at least some of these tips helpful, and that the mixed up audio wasn't too jarring. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do, and have a good day.